T, positive incentives, the T with violation, shunning, the financial, the AML advantage, and then the financial credit. Topicality positive inducements, topicality with violation, shunning, the money laundering AML advantage, and then the financial credibility advantage. And you two are ready? All right. The plan is not just on-topical, rather it's anti-topical. Engagement must be positive. Their usage of regulations is an example of coercive policy that constitutes anti-engagement. The affirmative can literally be any form of engagement. That is our limit on the topic. That sounds like a pretty reasonable limit to me. It means that also the other Afghan claims. Now, consensus in the literature is positive inducements. Absent that, there is no predictability. Turns all their offense. No one can be prepared. All in love, growing consensus literature defines engagement as positive inducements. Now, regulations have to destroy the topic, justify other non-engagement policies. Have to enforce tariffs and have to make the Cuban embargo stronger on the economic engagement topic. And have to create entirely new distinction with an advantage based off of U.S. domestic market competition like the steel industry. They could do that. Engagement is defined by the means, not the goal. It must use the promise of rewards and not the punishment. John Schweller, 99, the engagement of these decisions means to rely on the promise of rewards rather than the threat of punishment to be able to access. Now, limits is going to be the controlling impact because they do not meet the core of the topic. Now, there's a difference between hard debate and impossible debate. Having a tricky app is fine as long as it resides within a limited form of the topic. Constantly breaking new sanction enforcement apps and new regulations that avoids constantly debate, sale, and education. I think that we can all agree that the college topic last year proved that those topics kind of suck. Air neck. This topic will never be over limit. Too big and broad means that the Afghan is going to be enabled. It's just a question of whether or not we're going to be able to predict those, not going to be able to access. Now, their we meet argument doesn't make any sense because they're not a constructive cooperation. The incentives that they offer are ones of increasing regulation. The ability to access those are not going to make sense. The current interpretation actually is terrible because it's talking about total economic engagement with a specific policy the U.S. government did. It is not an intent to find also the term leads to all of the offense that we are going for. If that is a bad interpretation, even if it's within the literature, not going to be able to access. That is a good limit on the topic of the ability to that. This is a soft ground, but that is bad because there's no negative links to just creating a slightly more restrictive or changing the restriction that they have now, just making them slightly more effective. There is impossible to have negative links. They don't under limit, but every regulation is infinitely regressive as to what they can regulate. They can regulate rights, they can regulate a specific type of rights, and so on. They cannot. It's impossible to regulate. And insolvency advocates are never going to be able to check. They say regulations are key education, but that was whether they're not going to be able to access any unique offense on the question of the T with violation. This may seem like a dumb violation, but a distinction that has to be made at the start of the year. A question of what the towards in the topic means. There's a reason that economic engagement does not say with in the question. The toward means the direction of which implies, and the with means with implies a collaboration. Have to collaborate economically engage Brazil with Mexico are now topical. They're impossible to predict and expose the topic. If a number of states that can be economic case through collaboration is a comparative internal link. Is a comparative internal link. They say that they don't mandate bilaterals, but that doesn't make any sense because in the plan text it said they with plan text in vacuum is the framing issue. The plan text in vacuum could be interpreted to have anti-money laundering policies anywhere in the world. It could be that it works with that they don't interpretation as a way that's going to be able to. The only way that they're going to get out is saying that it means the same thing, but a bad interpretation, but either they are untopical or this is a plan flaw and they should lose on it. Precision is key to policy analysis. They don't provide a ballistic or a separately true definition of precondition for effective policy making a honest policy maker fail to rigorously define engagement that undermine effective foreign policy definition for the ground first systemic and objective research that they're not going to be able to access. The current interpretation doesn't make any sense because it's not an economic engagement violation, but rather a towards violation. We will agree that they meet that version of economic engagement, but except for the regulations forcing because they not have the multilateral bodies. It's not a question of the counter. They say we over limit, but it's a question that has to be towards not over limiting. If they or if the alternative is that they can engage any country in the world, they say Afghan, but there's plenty of Afghan. If they're just engaging toward it, is what the topic is the negative ground, but we can't predict the negative ground. Makes it impossible. They say they always follow the topic, but they do anywhere that was above. Also, I think they made a reasonability claim. Reasonability is arbitrary and it encourages judge intervention. Also, it's inevitable to have a cost-benefit analysis within the judge's mind. Just a question of whether we debate as debaters better policy analysis that can go to shunning concede that there's an overriding moral override that other objectives override the human rights objective. Not going for this argument of permutations. It is that AML. conceded our first argument that Tico times evidence is the uniquest question that takes out the entirety of the drugs arguments. That is no longer a hotspot for cartels. They move to places like Honduras. They're not going to be able to access any portion of this, of this to be able to do that. Now, the Hartzell evidence takes out their internal links to escalation and talks about how there have been multiple civil wars and instability within the country since World War II, but that is nothing has been able to do. No escalation has ever occurred. Not going to be able to win a link to either of these questions. Not going to be able to access it. Now, the poverty turn not going forward. Like you see about the Powell evidence, their only answer is not specific to Mexico. I ask you to read this evidence. Talks about Mexico border security right now. There is no instance for nuclear terrorism to occur over the border with Mexico. It's very specific to it. Also talks about how the status quo policies are going to be able to resolve all of the terrorism arguments they're going to talk about. They're going to be talking about since they're describing the status quo cartel movement. That means that the conceded status quo also kind of takes it out. Mueller evidence was conceded 1 in 3 billion checks not going to be able to access any of their access to the nuclear weapons that they're talking about. Even if they're all working together, they can't actually get access to nuclear. Now, financial credibility, not kicking out of the cybersecurity impact was a terrible idea because it was the only impact that we did not have office now. Now the Indo-Pak war turns, they're very sketchy on this kind of the question of like they have nukes. That is not the argument that we're the argument that they have nukes doesn't make any sense in the question. Yeah, sorry, real quick. Yeah. The Pakistani nuclear weapons are not functional means it does not isolate the void. It's a Pakistan normal posture of nuclear weapons not to be deployed, not made with their delivery system. Nuclear warheads, the delivery system are stored in the secure location. They're separate from the delivery. The delivery aircraft are located at one or more of the 10 major airports. Also gives uniqueness to our claim because our argument is that the war is inevitable. Right now is good because Pakistan would be India so badly they would stop war in the long term. The ability to access that not going to be able to. They have no internally to draw on. I don't know why he asserts in the 2AC to be able to access the frontier in India evidence to the framing issue for this debate because they can see that it solves general terrorism. They say that it's not Mexican terrorism. Their ACEN evidence, which is their impact, is about general terrorism occurring. Also, the Afghan instability, which is considered internally to China instability, the right field evidence, they just say they solve relations, but it supersedes the question of sequencing. If there is instability, not going to be able to grow up relations because it collapses. You can't have relations to do it. That means that even if they win impact to their other impacts, it's a question of sequencing, not going to be able to access. Now the DDEV debate. Collapse of civilization is that we reach our tipping point of complexity requires so much concession of resources that no turning back turns all of their banking solves arguments because those are just about the ability to sustain current economic models. If the resources run out, the banks can't do anything about it. Now, society can choose to create its environment, control up here, every society's history collapse. That's where McKenzie evidence. Now, growth causes terrorism, turns only external impact they have. Cronin and 3 objective terrorism, as result of globalization, for running creating incentive to use the terrorism, produce corruption of blame for American behavior, the hardest threat of our movement to lash out against globalization. Areas are for low left behind globalization, and globalization terrorism are intertwined, market intertwined, and the growth causes endocrine disruption that causes extinction. Not the way to 99. The reason that economies have to deal with the chemicals of the disrupt the endocrine system is constantly following the economic system is undermined. Its human ability to reproduce the human race is not sustainable. Not going to be able to access any of those arguments. Also, they're not going to access the disease turn, which was later on because actually the root cause of the ability to have the pandemic spread is globalization. Ryan and 90% of TV and global transcontinental air travel message to the rapidly quickly spread by what times the regression to co-evolution of pandemics and incredibly human rapid human means industrial side. All of the natural global advances is greatly augmented the potential for the emergence of a pandemic cross to extend the market pandemic and the collapse is inevitable. First is the growth requires exponential growth. That's impossible. Tech can't solve that. In the economy's population, since the growth of variation at the compound rate will choose dollars can also per population what has the greatest effect on the economy for testing research that now will use that technology will not permit the compact of the titanium resource of the extraterrestrial plans. Not going to be realized that the only interlink is that's going to be also the transition is going to occur if the collapse that also doesn't matter since they've conceded that's inevitable. It's impossible to transition back. Not going to be realized. Now extend the Dooney evidence. This means that even if we won't, even if we don't win the DDEV argument, they've conceded that there's no impact technical client. His only analysis on Royal was about why it solves the wars that would occur. They're not extending why the collapse would cause wars not going to be able to access the disease turn doesn't make any sense because there are no spread in the world that this earth can't sustain small kills, but the growth is the root cause of the fact that the soil is no longer usage, which I think is their only warranted argument. But the fact that is true means that collapse is inevitable. If it's true that there's no more arable land, means that we should collapse society to have the small communities on what little arable lands that are not going to be able to solve that. Their only arguments about like history proves inevitable is the trying to save it. The fact that resources will actually run out, no answers in 2AC, means that even if they try to transition back, it's impossible.